What I'm attempting here is to test not only the bullet but also the consistency of my block. I'm making a ballistic wax block, and that way whenever I shoot a bullet into it, it's not just like gel that it jiggles and tears up and then you can't really see into it. I'm trying to find something that when I shoot into it, the temporary stretch cavity and the way the bullet, how it's made, so I can actually see what it's doing and cut it in half and be able to see actually in 3D dimension of what that is carving out. And I'm not doing it at like close range. I'm actually doing it over a distance. So you're talking 100, 120. I'd like to stretch this thing out to about 300 yards, but I'll probably need a slightly larger block and not when there's 38-mile-an-hour winds. So this first part of the video is it's just high winds, me setting the block up, and the cross breeze is coming from my right to left, and with 38-mile-an-hour winds, what I did is I took a couple shots at the jugs just to verify that I wasn't going to drift too far to one side of the block. I did not wrap this block, and the instructions, they basically say, hey, you know what, you build the block, it's half wax and half petroleum jelly, you warm it up, you want to keep the temperatures as low as possible but get it to where it will melt, and pour it into a mold. And that's what I did. Poured it into the mold and pulled it out, and instead of wrapping it up so when the bullet hits it pushes out and expands and holds onto it, I wanted to see just how hard it is, just what happens if I don't wrap it well enough. So I figured why not do that on the first shot. So that's what I did. I cast a block, didn't really do anything else. I just went out and shot it just to see it, and basically this is what it turned out. The block has already been reduced, and I've got all the lead out of it, and I've already cast it back. I mean, it only took an hour to reconstitute it into a liquid form and get it put back in the mold. So tomorrow I'm hoping to go out, do a test again, except for this time I'm going to wrap the block so the block doesn't break, so I can get a clear idea of that channel, because it's quite impressive and how it actually broke. So I'm hoping to get a little bit better information about the AMAX and how it's going to perform, especially for my purpose, which is hunting and high winds. I almost had to give up shooting my 50s and 53s this time of year because, again, you got 35, 45, 50-mile-an-hour winds, and it's just impossible to go out and actually do any type of shooting that's accurate past 200 yards. Block. I did not wrap the block. You're supposed to wrap the block, but I wanted to know exactly how brittle the block would be, so I know how tight to wrap it. So this block was around 120 yards, and I shot entry of the block right here. Now this block was 6 by 4 and 12 inches long, and I'm kind of trying to figure out exactly how big the block has to be, especially for like 223, and then based off the 223 I can go up from there. So you'll see, went in, started to expand. There is the tip. That tip is right at 3 inches. You can tell though that the expansion started about an inch in, which is about the equivalent of what the coyote was the last time. You can see the track of the bullet's path where it's darker, dead center of the block. All the way up to here, and from here I'm going to look, because as you can see it goes right back to there, but nothing exited the back of the block, so I think it stopped right towards the end. Hopefully we can sit there and recover it. Now, granted, I had 35-mile-an-hour winds to deal with out there, 120-yard shot. That's why them heavier bullets are so important. Now next time I'm going to have this block wrapped, So I'm hoping to get a better cavity shot so I know exactly how much the expansion and how it works. I think it's right in there. Okay. You can see it led the entire way, and it turned in the block. Now I'm going to melt this down. I'm going to redo this test tomorrow, but I'm going to wrap the block, and I'm hoping to get the cavity expansion. You see it comes in here, comes all the way back to here, and that's where most of the expansion is. It looks like it streamlines and it turns, and it turned into the block, and it went to here. No, it did not exit the back of the block, so it's got to be right in there. As you can see, it looks to be it stopped right in here, and I'll measure that out. See, it pretty much led the entire way, and there is the bullet, or at least the lead of the bullet. And it appears that that is jacket still attached to that. It mushroomed back. I'll get that cleaned up. Now, at 120 yards, out of a 22-inch barrel, loaded a grain under max, it penetrated 10.5 to the farthest end. And that main cavity of destruction goes 8 inches long. This time, the block's going to be wrapped, so when it expands, it has no place to go. So it has to cut the groove through the block. I was just curious to how it sets up if I don't wrap it very tight. And now I know that one 12-inch block will stop at 223, because that's one of the heavier ones I got. So anything other than that is probably not going to have the hit into this block that heavy one will be. So as I was cutting up the block to recycle it, at the end of that 8 inches, I found the jacket. It was right here at 8 inches at the end of that channel. Now that channel was this wide. It just happened to blow out on that one side. And now I get that cleaned off. So it did shed the jacket about 8 inches in. And I did find one or two other larger chunks of lead, but I'll have to weigh them out separately. And then once I recycle the wax, I'll be able to get more out of it. So right there at the end of exactly 8 inches is where the jacket had came off. As always, if you have any questions, comments, ideas, just put them down below, and I'll try to get back to them as soon as I can.